I tell you, when Penn State can run the ball, good things happen for the Nittany Lions. Great time to subscribe to the channel right now. Big Ten content every single day. Always crush that like button to spread the word of Big Ten Ted. Man, this offense is fun to watch at Penn State when they are running the ball well. And here's the thing. They don't need to run for a bunch of yards, even though they did run the ball really well with both Katron Allen and Nick Singleton in this game. They don't need to run the ball for a bunch of yards because you saw they just got a little running game going, then they got it going a little bit more, hit the big play over the top because they need balance on their offense. When they can't run the football, it puts too much pressure on Sean Clifford, and that offensive line balance is key to mix things up in the play calling on offense. I was kind of surprised at Minnesota and their defense. I thought they would have a better day against Penn State, but you really saw the difference between a good Big Ten East team and what is now dropping to a mid-tier Big Ten West team. Man, I really liked Minnesota early in this season. And a lot of people were saying, maybe they didn't play much of anything. Their non-conference schedule was really soft. Then they beat a Michigan State team, and that seemed to really raise a lot of eyebrows for people around the Big Ten. Say, hey, maybe Minnesota is that team. But that was more about maybe the struggles at Michigan State than Minnesota. And now these last three games, Purdue, Illinois, and Penn State, you're seeing how Minnesota is stacking up against some of the better teams in the Big Ten Conference right now. And it's not looking good for the Gophers. Look, this defense is a good defense. I'm just not sure if it's a great defense like I thought it would be or that it looked like earlier in the season. This defense is starting to drop a little bit, at least in my eyes. And man, you look at Minnesota right now, it's hard because you throw in a backup quarterback, and you kind of knew when Ethan Kaliakmanis got the nod that it probably wasn't going to go well for Minnesota. You don't know what's going on with Tanner Morgan. You looked at what happened the last couple of losses when Tanner Morgan was in the game, and it still didn't look that great. I still think you would have had a Penn State victory. I'm not sure how different this game would have been. What I'm trying to say is I'm not sure how different this game would have been with Tanner Morgan. I'm sure it would have been a little bit better. I think Minnesota maybe could have kept it a score closer at times in this game. But this was still a Penn State defense that was going to sell out on the running game and make Minnesota beat them with the passing game. And what did you see against Illinois? What did you see against Purdue? This was a team that could not beat you with the passing game, whether it was Tanner Morgan or Ethan Kaliakmanis. Penn State sold out, and Minnesota didn't want to throw the ball for the longest time. They didn't trust the young kid, Ethan Kaliakmanis, to go over the top and make some plays. Maybe it's not so much Ethan, because I think Ethan, he showed some things to me in this game. It's just PJ Fleck talked about his receivers not getting separation, and it proved to be right what I said in this preview. Look, that's a great defensive secondary down there, and not many times we saw Joey Porter Jr. called out on the broadcast, which is usually a good thing because that usually means they're not throwing in the direction of Joey Porter Jr. This was a Penn State secondary that locked in. This was not going to be a favorable matchup for Minnesota, and it proved not to be a favorable matchup for the Golden Gophers in this football game. Look, Penn State's a good football team. This result does not make them a great football team. They're still a good football team. This is what happens when you have a one-dimensional team on the other side of the coin, and this is what happens when the Nittany Lions are able to run the football. Now, where do these two teams go from here? Because, man, these are two different teams right now. Penn State going to host Ohio State. That's going to be a really fun matchup. There's some things to pick apart from that Iowa film for Penn State to really key in on some things. We'll see. I'm not going to take the result from Minnesota and say, yeah, because they did it here, they can do it against Ohio State. Two very different teams are the Buckeyes and the Golden Gophers. But mainly for Minnesota right now, you look at a team that early in the season we were talking about 10-2, 9-3 Big Ten West champions, And now you look at their schedule, considering how they're playing right now, you look at games like Wisconsin, you look at games like Nebraska, you look at games like Iowa, where maybe those seemed like winnable games earlier on in the season. Now those are toss-ups. And now all of a sudden, if those games are toss-ups, you might be talking about a bowl game as a toss-up right now for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Crazy how things change in a couple of weeks in the Big Ten Conference. I want to hear your reactions on this game. Wow, Gophers. You'd think they're going to make a bowl game. That's crazy to be talking about considering how we viewed this team just a couple of weeks back. Or are we just overreacting? Or maybe the Gophers will be fine right now. I want to hear about Penn State. How do you view them looking ahead to their matchup against the Buckeyes? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to Big Ten Ted. I'm Big Ten Ted, and we'll see you in the next one.